And if you look at what's happening, at least in the commercial real estate market, that's what's happening. There's a serious flight to quality. In the markets where there are good buildings that have good air quality and all these other amenities that are convenient for people, well, these buildings are full and they're actually commanding good rents. And these kind of B buildings that aren't, they're really struggling. So it actually tells you something fundamental about the building again, that it's not just that people want to work from home or not go to the office. It's that people are okay going back to the office when it's an office that's worth going to. And for us in our field of indoor air quality, I think part of that mix has to be you are giving people a place that they want to be, that they are safe, healthy, they perform their best, it's inviting, it meets all these criteria we know that lead to better performance, better mental health. And to me, that has to be part of that mix. And to be honest, the good companies are recognizing that, and they're including that in the portfolio of how are we going to lure you back to do your best work? Well, yes, we've done everything we can to make sure this is the place where you're the most productive, you're safe, healthy, and happy, and it's a place you want to come. So I think you're starting to see that split between the good buildings and the bad and the flight to quality in this down market.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. And that was one of the other questions I wanted to ask you. I imagine when you're conceiving of a book like this and you're writing about it, and you pay some attention to it at one point when you talk about the leaders, the leading buildings in the field, and those are now 5 years on. It'd be interesting to go back and see how some of those are doing, which I'm sure you've done and are doing. But you also expressed a hope at the time about where you thought the market was on its trajectory, and you couldn't have foreseen the pandemic when you were conceiving of this book. What's your general thoughts on how far we've come in recognizing some of these fundamentals in the built environment? And particularly, I'm interested in your feelings on the long tail part of the built environment, how we see you. I think you did in a very nuanced way address that in your book, that this is something that's going to take time. There are only certain opportunities you get to go into some of these existing buildings and improve them over time. So this isn't something that people are going to wake up tomorrow and suddenly deal with their entire portfolio. But how have you seen that progression in the half decade or so? And where do you see that now moving over the next few years?
Yeah, that's a good close read, and it's a good question, and it's worth revisiting because, right, in the book we posit that we were in the early phase of this kind of S-shaped curve where you need the early adopters. I think markets always need an early adopter, someone to buy in, to take that first leap. And I think JP Morgan actually did this with their new headquarters that I've advised on, and it was at the time we were writing the book. And, there's pushback when you're saying, let's do something different. Let's bring in more outdoor air. Let's have real-time air quality monitoring. Let's improve the filtration. Let's do an all-electric tower because it's different. It's naturally a market that maybe is risk averse. It's a slow-moving market. But you get some of these good companies who are really care about their employees and recognize the science of how the building can help their employees. And they make it happen. And we all need that, not because this healthy buildings are just for the JP Morgans of the world. It's so that you have the models out there to say, yes, this can be done. By the way, if you do the cost benefit analysis, the benefits are 10x over the costs. And then others look to it. And New York City is a great market. Other developers in there are looking at that building. They want to compete, which is great. And now you see we're moving off that early adopter. And certainly the pandemic accelerated this because now what are the conversations we're having? The ones we need around how do we just change codes and standards such that all of this science and application benefits everybody. My goal is not just to have, a handful of shiny new buildings out there be quote unquote healthy. It's just that it becomes the norm so that this field of healthy buildings just, we're all put out of business. Buildings are just healthy. We design them the right way, and there's a lot less sick building syndrome out there. So ultimately, I think we've actually accelerated faster than I thought because of the pandemic, where now you see schools adopting some of these strategies. Entire states have adopted these strategies. California schools adopting some of these ventilation standards. We're really in that accelerant period pace. But to get to that next where it's just everybody, this is where codes and standards come in my view.